to program content. Viewer and parental discretion is advised.
The Ohio River represented moving from the south to the north. This river indicated that I have crossed over from the land of slavery to the land of freedom.
The Underground Railroad Freedom Center, next on Black Nouveau. Hello and welcome to Black Nouveau. I'm Milton, Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. We're glad you could join us. On this edition, we'll remember George Foreman's trip to Milwaukee and reprise one of our more dramatic moments, the Addicted Mother segment from M, a collection of mothers.
But first, we're going to take you on a tour of the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Liddy Collins is our tour guide.
If not you, then who? If not now, then when? You can contemplate these questions in one of three pavilions that form the building that houses the National Underground Railroad Museum, located in Cincinnati, Ohio. The pavilion Courage, Cooperation, and Perseverance reflects what takes place here. The mission of the National Underground Railroad Museum is to use the stories from the Underground Railroad era to inspire people to act on behalf of others and to promote the cause of freedom around the world. To keep these ideas clear, the Freedom Center has interpreters to historically explain the exhibits.
It is a slave pen. It is not a log cabin. It is not a little house. Part of the forced migration, as far as the internal slave trade was concerned, is to having a temporary holding facility that would imprison those persons who were being purchased and being held pending the final transportation to Natchez or New Orleans, Louisiana. Primarily operated between 1830 and 1834, it housed at least 40 slaves up to 80 slaves.
As you look at the socks here, and I'm sure that some of you have looked over.
Doug Irving is one of the interpreters here. Irving's historical knowledge and passion to share it is worth the visit. Here he explains the haragonon, the wall hanging that captures your view when first entering the building.
Wow. That was the tough one.
Haragonon is a composition of art composed by Brenda Lynn Robinson out of Columbus that gives you a series of stories, and those stories, they rag on and on. They're historical stories, they're family stories, they're community stories, they're personal stories, and they serve to try to continue to tell in history and to continue others to tell their own story, journeys, the journeys that people have through life and that historically that we've had through life.
This is not so much an artifact museum as it is a storytelling museum. The story of slavery and the story of the Underground Railroad has not adequately been told in this country, either in school or in public museums, and we're doing that. And we try to do that by relating stories that people can be inspired by and learn from.
The National Underground Railroad Freedom Center is located on what once was the Underground Railroad.
It was a gateway in this area for slaves escaping to freedom. Kentucky at the time, prior to the Civil War, was what's called a neutral state. However, there was a great deal of slavery in Kentucky, and Ohio was, of course, a free state. Many slaves, as many as 30 to 40,000, are estimated to have crossed the Ohio River right in this region. So the historical roots of the Underground Railroad are right here. The site looks right out on the Ohio River, which for many slaves was called the River Jordan, the last physical barrier to freedom. Although in fact it wasn't the last barrier, because for much of the time prior to the Civil War, slaves could be recaptured even if they had escaped to a free state and taken back into slavery.
The Ohio River represented moving from the south to the north. This represented freedom when you crossed there. However, this was just one of the stops along the Underground Railroad, which was a major passageway to freedom. People went all the way up north, all the way to Canada. So this river indicated that I have crossed over from the land of slavery to the land of freedom.
And this Freedom Center, situated on that river, offers a stop for our young people to cross over and learn about that Underground Railroad journey.
I learned that a lot of people tried to escape to be freed from being slaves, and some of the people that tried, they didn't make it. It took a lot of courage for you to be able to go south. You had to have a lot of courage. Most of the people that tried to escape, they were caught, they would be beaten or hanged.
To keep those stories front and center, the theaters and galleries reflect those ideas with names such as the Harriet Tubman Theater, Flight for Freedom, the Escape Gallery, which houses a theater for children, and an area called The Struggle Continues.
Beyond Freedom Room is an area that we have designed specifically for children. It's interactive. We have a timeline here that talks about the American history, the history of the slave trade, and also the Underground Railroad movement. It is also a hands-on. You'll see a lot of technology in here that you can touch, and screens move and so forth. We also have the exhibit of the Henry Box Brown. It is actually a replica of the box that Henry Box Brown was transferred in. He mailed himself from slavery to freedom. And children have an opportunity to get inside that and kind of get the feel of being enclosed and locked up. So it's an interactive area for children. Out of that, you go into what we call the Struggle Continues tunnel. It's a dark area that kind of captures a mood and a setting of the struggle of Tiananmen Square, what's happened in South Africa and apartheid there, what goes on in India and around the world. We try to capture not only the past, but the present. And out of there, we come into what's happening modern day, right before our very eyes, and that is Darfur. We have Nick and George Clooney that have just gone over to Africa, come back, and we have a presentation about their experiences there. We have a critical situation that's going on where there's actually genocide that is happening as we speak. We want to talk about and become the voice for those people there. So that's what you see in terms of what our mission is in actualizing right here with the Darfur experience.
Born?
1932.
32?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, has she passed on?
No, sir. Married.
Another experience offered at the Freedom Center is the opportunity to look up your family genealogy at the Familysearch Center. You may be able to find your descendants in one visit, depending on if you have some key information about your family, such as a birth date, birthplace, death date, or that location.
If you have that information, you will be able to find quite a bit of information in a short time, say half an hour. But for people researching back several generations, it most likely will take them several days and weeks.
An eternal flame of freedom burns at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center.
You couldn't come from the south to the north without having some type of waybearer. People put lamps and lanterns lit up in their homes to give an indication that we are part of the Underground Railroad. We're saying that we have an eternal flame of freedom, that when you come from the south to the north, we're a visible experience that you should have right here. We're right in the center of where the action is, so to speak. The flame is a pathway for lighting your path to freedom.
Last thing I can tell you about my dad, who's passed on now, he was my friend.
George Foreman stressed the importance of fatherhood at the 4th Annual Summit. He also talked about his boxing career and the rumble in the jungle with Muhammad Ali.
So anyway, the fight was made. I'm in the ring with him. And I go out and I beat him up. He hit me with a couple, but it was like shoe fly. Don't bother me. I beat him up the second round. He hit me with a few more, but like shoe fly, I said, don't bother me. I'm certain I was gonna knock him out. And I mean, I beat on this guy, and finally about the seventh round, I hit him in the side. Boom, and he fell on me. I said, now he's gonna quit all that talking. He fell on me and said, that all you got, George? That was about all I had. I looked up, boom! 1-2 shot that knocked me down. I'm on the floor thinking, this can't be happening. I hit the floor trying to break the spot, and the referee counted 1. In just a moment, 2. I said, hold on now. 3. I said, wait. By the time I jumped up, I lost that coveted heavyweight championship of the world I loved so much. And not to make it worse, he's over there, didn't I tell you?
He talked about becoming champion again at the age of 45.
Didn't have any money. My wife was pregnant. Told I was broke. I can't afford to fight anymore. I mean, I can't afford all these children. She said, oh, yes, you can. You better get something. So I came out of retirement, a middle-aged man, 315 pounds. But I had all these kids to feed. You heard about George, and George? I had to feed George, and George. And they had to go to school. College. So I traveled all over the world and people made jokes. George Foreman will never be the prodigal son of boxing as long as he's looking like the fatted calves. His training camp is next to Baskin Robbins. But I looked in the mirror and said, they only saying those things because they're true. What are you gonna do? Well, I got back in the business and I started boxing. I needed money for my youth center and for my family, and I started boxing. Finally, at the age of 40, almost 46, I got a chance to fight for the title again. Everybody was saying, you're too old. You're gonna get killed. And I was in the ring with that Michael Moore. He was about 25, 24 or something. And I remember just like I was in the ring with Muhammad Ali. He was beating me up and I was beating him back. And he finally got that look on his face like Muhammad Ali had all those years. That all you got, George? But then I said, I got the George Foreman lean, mean, fat-reducing grill machine. Boom! When we knocked him out, I became the oldest man ever to be heavyweight champ of the world. When that happened, J.D. Foreman was right there telling me, didn't I tell you? He was always with me, my father, J.D. Foreman.
He has become a successful entrepreneur, but it was his spiritual awakening that helped him understand the value of family and fatherhood. Once you underwent that religious conversion, how did that affect you as a father?
When I met up and had some, I didn't even know there was a God that in existence. I didn't believe in religion at all. But I had a death experience where I was dead and alive in a split second. I screamed, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me.
Clarify that a little more, Mr. Foreman.
I'm in right before a boxing match. After a boxing match, I lost by decision, went back to the dressing room to cool off. And as I did, thoughts came into my mind. I realized I was about to die in a dressing room because I couldn't cool off. And I heard a voice said, you believe in God, why are you scared to die? Well, I played like I believe in God. I even told people I was praying, but I didn't believe in such. But at that moment, I started trying to make a deal because I knew I was about to die. I said, I still am George Foreman. I can box and give money to charity because I was rich. I heard a voice from within me say, I don't want your money, I want you. That changed my life. Then I was dead and alive again in this dark place over my head, under my feet, nothing but horror and sadness. If you multiply every sad thought that ever came to your mind, you wouldn't come close to what I did. I got mad. I said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. I just didn't believe in religion. I got a second chance. I was snatched from this death, back alive in the dressing room, blood flowing through my veins. And as they laid me on the table, I screamed for the first time, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me, because I saw blood on my hand and forehead, and I hadn't been cut from the boxing match. 10 years, I became an evangelist. People started calling me brother. Funerals, I was ordained, and in the 70s, I was ordained an evangelist, and that's what I've done since then.
Okay. Now, you want to go that conversion. You experience death and you come back alive. But once again, how did that affect you as a father with your children, sir?
You know, when you're about to die, I looked behind me and I saw everything I'd ever worked for crumble like ashes. And the one thing I was sad about, I hadn't said goodbye to my mother, nor my children. You given a second chance to live, the first thing to come to your mind, go hug mama and stay close to your children. I wanted them to know I loved them. I had a second chance. I realized what was going to make me a good father then is not about how much I provided, but I was going to show those kids my love. And that's for children all they want. So that's all, that was the conversion. The conversion converted me to make certain that I love people.
As a father of 10 great children, what is the most rewarding thing to you as a father?
Well, for me, I remember my first son, as a matter of fact, that I saw his graduation.
Is that the one that served as your manager for a while?
Yeah,
okay,
George. He graduated Rice University, and they walked across the stage, and they said, George Foreman. And I realized through him, I was living. To see your children graduate and get a college education, oh, man, that is the utmost to me.
The problem of addiction in our community is not an easy one to face. In M, a collection of mothers, the Milwaukee Multicultural Theater tackled the issue head-on in a riveting monologue. We're going to present the monologue to you, and I'll talk with the actress who delivers it. A word of caution: this is adult material and is not suitable for children.
I could have another one. It's not like I haven't done it before. I remember the last time I had enough to get me wet for 3 months. Everybody thought I had won the lottery or something. But it was worth it being in that rehab them 9 months. Mama think I'm a monster because the way I make them and I sell them. But shit, I got to do what I got to do. I don't know what came first, my habit or my cold heart. Shit, I remember the first time I got wet. First time I shot up. Man, it was so warm. I remember hearing the sound of rushing water going through my ears. I imagine that's what it sounded like at the beach. Imagine me, I'm 10 miles away from Lake Michigan. I ain't never been there to see it, let alone see the water touch the rocks. Besides, I done been on big old mountains with snow on them. I done been on the island of Fiji. I done swam the Panama Canal. At least that's what I see when I'm high. Mama think I'm a monster. You know, she don't take no parts in making me. She always say I'm just like him. Even though every time I look in the mirror, I see her eyes and her narrow-ass nose. Uncles and men that I ain't never spent no time with always talking about I'm built like her. Hell, I don't even know who he is. She don't either. Or did I tell you what I got for the last one? Number 5 or 6 or some shit. I forgot now. He said it was a fine one, too. They was all talking about how wise and handsome he looked when the doctor held him up. Can you imagine staying clean long enough just to bring another mother into this so f***ed up world? I'm a bad bitch. I am. I done f***ed up now, though. I almost lost it when the doctor told me what I was carrying. No, it ain't AIDS. I knew that would happen. But a girl, what kind of shit is that? I had 5 or 6 of these motherfuckers, and never once was one of them a girl. Don't matter now, though. See, mama think I'm a monster. That I'm a better mother than she'll ever be. See, I had this uncle, and he used to do my hair while she slept. He used to make me breakfast, too. And I remember every morning before I left for school, he would say, remember, ghetto children are beautiful. Give them hell, queen. And he'd kiss me on my forehead and wait for me to get out the car. He never tried to make me touch his thing or touch my coochie or nothing. She made him leave, though. She said she was tired of waiting on the revolution. Said the revolution wasn't going to put food on the table. He's a good uncle, though. I wonder if he ever got his revolution. Why I never see it on TV. See, I'm not a monster, mama. I'm a queen. And this queen is going to do her princess proud. You feel that, princess? Feel like somebody just put a warm blanket on you, fresh out the dryer. Watch it, watch it. Here it comes. I love to hear the sound of that water going through my ears. You feel that, princess? No worries, no pains, no probing fingers, no uncles, no boys tearing you apart. Don't worry, princess, this your first time getting wet. And I made sure it'll be our last.
Chastity, that was an extremely powerful performance. What do you draw on to get into character, to be able to express that character to us?
Just really going into the deeper portions of myself and truly seeing the character and seeing her as a person and trying to put myself in those shoes, and then just other experiences within my own life and things that I've dealt with, you know, myself, and then just kind of draw from that and then do my best to bring her to life, you know, so.
Is that draining? Is that physically training to go deep into yourself spiritually and mentally?
It is. We had many nights during the run of the play that I had to kind of pull myself back out, you know, and so it is emotionally draining and mentally draining. I have to kind of take a minute and sit down and just, okay, back to myself, bring myself back, you know what I mean? So, but it's definitely worth it, you know what I mean? But it is very, very challenging, you know, so I do have to rest afterward, you know.
You mentioned, you shared with us that you had to go back into yourself to pull from some of your own experiences to do this character. It's a very powerful piece. It's a very powerful character. It probably touches many of us more than we want to share. Have you moved past those personal experiences?
Thankfully, yes. It took a long time, and God's grace is on me. That's all I can say, and I have, and I'm grateful because I can draw back, and not in the present, but actually go back and look, and not be there anymore. You know what I mean? And use that for the character. So I'm grateful. You know, so I am past those things right now. So I'm glad. That's all I can say.
That's wonderful. I just want to say thank you for joining us and sharing that character and giving us a piece of your life through this character. I think it's a powerful message, and I think our viewers will enjoy seeing the production.
I hope so, and I thank you all for having us. This is a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau. As always, be safe.
And remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.